Well, if you look in northern West Virginia, where we are here in Canonsburg, up on in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, in Youngstown, Ohio, with the brand new steel plant and all the supply chain around there, I think it becomes pretty clear that a handful of jobs on a rig doth not make the workforce around this industry. Those are very, very important jobs, and by their nature, they will be transient. Whether it's transient from Morgantown to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh to Indiana, PA, Indiana, PA to Youngstown, Youngstown to Williamsport. I mean, as you are developing a natural resource, those jobs are moving with that rig, and it can be a Texas-based team that picks up a couple Pennsylvanians or West Virginians or Ohioans along the way, and that's all good. But that is such a tiny percentage of the overall jobs. Our associate members, if you would look through the jobs that they have available, our full members and associate members on our jobs portal, where they link directly to the open jobs that are waiting to be filled in this industry in this part of the country. You'll see hundreds of jobs, and they range from accountants, HR managers, land agents. Just looking outside the window here, there are 2 buildings that are being built right now, construction firms, the building management for those offices. It goes on and on throughout the types of jobs, and a handful of folks running the rig. Sure, more of those being local would be great, and we're continuing to go in that direction because it's a lot more economical to have folks go home to their house an hour or 2 hours away than it is a plane flight away. But for us to limit our scope of where those jobs are coming from to just the rig, I think is missing incredibly broad.
Why do you think it is? Because that is where so much of the focus is essentially on the rig workers. Is that what causes that to be such the focus? Is it because it's the more visible part of the job?
Well, it's interesting. I've been on a lot of well tours. And when you go on a well tour, you don't necessarily go talk to who's providing the catering, to the group that day, or you don't necessarily go back and find out who did what local company did the site preparation or did the surveying work. What you're seeing on that well tour is the single person sitting in the control booth, and that person, by their very job title, is transient. I mean, they move with that multi-million-dollar rig. That is what I've seen personally. And meanwhile, you've got a dozen contractors right on that site who, the vast majority of them are local contractors. The vast majority of truck drivers that enter and leave the site every day are working locally. You don't bring people in from Texas and Oklahoma to drive that truck. So I do think there's an incredibly disproportionate focus on just who's running that drilling rig that day. But I have the pleasure of seeing those, hundreds of people just within our coalition alone on a weekly basis who are either natives of Pennsylvania or who have come to West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio to raise their families. And folks right here in this office, a lot of them have boomeranged back because they're the ones that want to come back and be part of the communities, raise their family where they grew up, and there's growing jobs here to do that.